Hola, happy Monday, everybody. We're Chris.
Hi, I'm Steve.
From EatWalkLearn. We're glad you're here. Thank you so much. Give us a subscribe and a like, and especially if you're new here, we're glad you're here. We've been talking about our nomad life and everything that's happening in it. We are currently in Spain, walking the El Camino from just outside of Porto to Santiago de Compostela. It's legally or technically a pilgrimage. I don't know if it's a pilgrimage for us, but we're on a 14-day hike, which we're going to tell you about next week. So make sure you subscribe and you can see everything that happens on our Camino, and ask questions below so we include your answers next week. But this week, as we promised in last week's video, we're talking about how to lease a car in Europe for more than a couple of days. We've got the cost, the route, the insurance, the gas, all the details you need to know for how to lease a car, and it is a spectacular video.
You're going to love it.
You're going to love it. So we're going to lay out everything that happened on our 5,000 mile, 8,000 kilometer road trip from Rome to Lisbon, and we're going to start off with...
Yeah, why did we do this?
Right.
Why did we rent a car?
So about 4 or 5 years ago, I actually did this trip. My daughter and I landed in Lisbon, and we ended up in Barcelona, and we did that by plane, train, bus combination. And on that trip, I thought, you know what? I really want to come back when Steve and I do our international house hunt and get a car and actually get into the nooks and crannies of really the Portuguese and Spanish coast. But we did a little bit more than that.
Yeah, and I had never been to these countries really, and so I was really intrigued by being able to get a car and being able to go into these little towns and really spend some time and not be constrained by, where does the train take you and where does the bus take you, really to be able to explore. And particularly the southern coast of Spain and the Algarve in Portugal are places that I was really intrigued by and really wanted to be able to spend some time and do some exploring.
So we decided that we were going to get a car. We were going to pick it up in Rome because we had some friends that were coming in. We wanted to have a car while we were in Tuscany. But as we were looking for renting a car, we realized we had three problems. The first problem was the very, very high cost of rental cars. The second problem was
insurance. Everybody always wants to have good insurance when they're renting a car.
And we weren't sure that our great international credit cards through Chase and so on would cover that insurance. And then third were the outrageous drop fees. We were seeing, as we were looking at your traditional car rental companies like Avis and Hertz and Go Europe and and Eurocar and all those, we were seeing like $70 and $80 a day plus drop fees of up to $1,000 per stop. And it was just an outrageous scenario, especially in the light of the shortage of rental cars around Europe, around the United States. So in this video, we're going to tell you how we overcame all those three problems. And we're also going to have a little fun. And we're going to quiz you with some road signs, some international road signs.
Love the road signs, especially in Italy. We're just great.
So for our first road sign, you want to set that up?
Yeah. So in the first road sign, this is really one of my favorites. The first time that I saw this, and I saw the sign on the left, and I said, first of all, I don't know what this means. I assume it means that you can pass. But what if you're colorblind? How would you know? It's just two cars on a sign. So
if you are colorblind, there's a red car and a black car on this first scene.
That's right. If you are colorblind, so take a look at these two signs: the signs the sign on the left and the sign on the right. And your choices are: you cannot pass, you can pass, or are you colorblind? And so do we?
So the right answer is the one on the left.
The one on the left, it means you cannot pass. So red means no, don't do this. If there's a line through it,
you can pass.
You can pass. So isn't that nice? So we were reading them wrong, but we figured that out very quickly that red means no, a line means yes.
Until we get to the next sign. All right. So next back on our agenda. So we did a video about our road trip 2 weeks ago. Here's the video up here. Here's the link. But basically the road trip was this. We picked up the car in Rome. We then went to Florence and tootled all around Tuscany, went up to Venice, and then came back down to the Italian Riviera, went to La Spezia, then came across France through Nice, stopped through Monaco, then came over to Spain, jumped up to the northern coast, up to San Sebastian and Bilbao, then came back down through Madrid, down just below Barcelona, and then did the coast of Spain all the way down to Gibraltar, and then started working our way through the Algarve. We did pop over to Malaga, Granada, and then came back over to the Algarve, spent time in the southern Portuguese area called the Algarve, and then drove up to Lisbon and dropped the car in Lisbon. So here's a map. You're looking at a map right now of that route. And again, the video tells you all the details about where we stopped. We have notes here for the first time ever on a video. So as I was researching all of these different ways that we could rent a car, I came across a fabulous company called AutoTT. Now, there's several French companies that do the same thing. We got a hold of AutoTT, and they were absolutely fabulous. So I went to their website, and on the website, you put in the dates that you want to travel, and where you want to pick up a car from and where you want to drop the car off. They have about 20 or so locations throughout Europe that you can pick up and drop off cars. Some of them are at airports, some of them are inner city. And so we picked Rome and for our pickup and Lisbon for our drop off. Then they ask you for your driver's license, your passport, and your arrival and departure information. And then you get to pick your car. So the AutoTT has the reps for Renault and Dacia, D-A-C-I-A, two different French car companies. And among the two car makers, they had about a dozen different car choices. You can pick everything from a 5-speed manual on up to an automatic, and from a hatchback up to an SUV. And
or
you can
diesel,
pick
or gas,
or hybrid. And so among those choices, we decided to go with a gas vehicle, 5-speed, since we both drive. We're both able to drive manual, although one of us was a little rusty.
It had only been about 30 years since I've driven a 5-speed, but I got the hang of it.
And so we ended up picking a Renault Clio, which is kind of like a Honda Civic hatchback, but a little bit nicer.
Oh, a lot nicer than a Civic. Yeah.
It had navigation, a GPS, backup camera, air conditioning, smart...
All kinds of safety features.
Yeah,
this is really a great car.
It was really, really a great car. We're not quite sure what the mileage per gallon were because it was all in kilometers, but we think it was probably about 30 to 35 miles to the gallon. So that was the car that we picked. And
yeah, so getting the car was super, super easy. So we flew into Rome. We got off the plane, walked out to where you would get, the taxis or buses or things like that. And a car pulled up to pick us up. So we coordinated this in advance. So the rep, picked us up obviously in a Renault, and took us about 10 minutes to their lot and their offices where they have the cars where you actually do the leasing from. So that was really nice and really easy. And once we got there, Chris was the one, because she did
I had done all the paper, all the work. So it was very, very simple. They asked for the original documents, so my passport and my driver's license, but did not require an international driver's license. They took my Texas driver's license, no problem. And then I just signed some paperwork. They gave us a registration, like a registration card for the car, and then they took us out to the car. They did a full walkthrough of the car. They showed us how the GPS worked. They plugged in our place where we needed to drop the car off into the GPS, so we never had to look that up. They told us how everything worked, and we loaded up the car, put our luggage in it, and off we went. And the first place we stopped was to get gas, because the car only had maybe a gallon of gas in it.
Yeah, so it had maybe a little bit more than that, but we wanted to make sure we had a full tank of gas, and just kind of little subtle differences. So this is not like a rental car where they just say, here's the keys, drive away. They really went through the car and really made sure that we
And it was a brand new car. It had 3 kilometers on it.
Brand new car.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So our first stop was to get gas. And just a little bit about gas in the United States, we're so used to just, flashing our credit card, pumping the gas, and off you go. A little bit different in different countries. So sometimes there was somebody there to pump the gas for you. Sometimes, in most of the cases, you pump the gas yourself, but make sure that you have cash, because there was one situation where we were on a Sunday where the gas stations were basically closed. There was a self-serve option, but for some reason our international credit cards were not working.
And we have about 20 credit cards between us, so it wasn't like Chase and Bank of America weren't working. I mean,
Right.
none
Tried
of
them
our
all.
cards worked.
Yeah, so we need, in those particular cases, we needed to make sure that we had cash available. Otherwise, we would have been stranded someplace because we wouldn't have been able to fill up the car. But I'd say in about 90% of the cases, you get out, you pump the gas. And in this case, we had a regular, but there's also a diesel option and different octane levels like you'd have in the United States. And then you go inside and pay, and you pay with a credit card. And it was, again, super easy, no hassle. Wash your windows. And in most of the cases, there were times and they weren't that great, swans, whatever, squeegees. But you could wash your windows, go to the bathroom, get a snack, that kind of thing that you're used to. But that's the whole gas situation.
Time for another road sign. So this is my turn. So I want you to look at this particular road sign. If you're colorblind, it is a red. It's a round with red and white in the middle. So your choices are tube ahead, like in England, you enter the tube ahead,
Subway.
or if you're American, you might say gun range ahead, or road closed.
I don't know. So I think it was gun range.
No, it was road closed, which we would see that, and I'm like, oh, you can go there.
You
That
can
looks
go
like,
there.
because we're looking for a red X of road closed. Anyway, we were quite frightened sometimes when the GPS said turn right, and I'm like, why? We can go right that way, but the road was closed. So,
Yeah.
okay, but the total price that we paid for gas was
Yeah, $946 total gas. We definitely had a sticker shock with regards to gasoline during the time that we're shooting this video. Gasoline prices are spiking up. They were very close to $2 a liter.
€2
per liter,
which is about
$8 a gallon.
$8.50 a gallon. Yeah.
And so you
So
pay
all
that in
you
the United
Americans who are
States.
complaining about $6 gas, you're living the dream right now.
$8 a gallon.
Yeah, at least.
Here.
Yeah.
And so, but this is the choice that we made. We wanted the car. We paid it, and there were not a lot of variations. So we paid between $190 and $2 everywhere that we went for the entire time that we had the car.
Right.
And we just paid it. So
Okay.
total $946, almost $1,000. And I'm telling you in dollars because we paid mostly with our credit card, and so all the conversions were already made at the time that I added it all up. So that was in dollars.
So then off we go, and we're driving around, and then we need, of course, to park the car. And what we found is there is no free parking anywhere in Europe. Even on the side streets, you've got to pay parking. Even little towns, you have parking. So parking was actually pretty reasonable, but we got to where even though the price of parking was reasonable, we would get into these big centros to go look at all the stuff downtown, and trying to find a parking place on the street was really, really stressful. So we would just end up parking in the parking garages, which were usually underground, very, very tight, really, really tiny spirals to go down into the garage. But they were really affordable. You never felt like you were getting gouged by the price of parking. Nonetheless, because we had a car, we also had to think about parking in relation to our hotels and our Airbnbs. So we often had to either find something that was a little bit out of the way so that we could find some place to park, or we had to pay for parking at a hotel. So it kind of changed our strategy a little bit about where we would stay for our accommodation. But nonetheless, we were glad to have the car, and we had to worry about parking. The total price for parking that we paid over our 5,000 miles was $189.
Right.
Okay. Next up is another road sign. That's you.
Yeah, so in this particular road sign, I really love this road sign because it was white and black with 5 lines. And I like 5 lines. Well, what if it had 3 lines or 6 lines? And I'm counting the number of lines. I'm like, there must be something significant about the number of lines. This is how many lanes there are in the road, but it's slanted. So it means you can't do something 5 times. Like they really mean it. Like it's really important. So your choices here are, is this a flat tire zone? Is it do not enter? Is it zebra ahead? Or is it end of all restrictions? And the answer is
end of all restrictions. So you're supposed to know that when you're on the autovia that there are default speed limits. So the default speed limit is 110 kilometers an hour. But if there's no sign saying that it's not that, or if you've been through a zone saying there was like a 50 and a 70 and a 20 or whatever, then when you see this sign, it means that all those restrictions are now off and you can return back to the 110 kilometers an hour.
This was
So obvious.
This is a popular sign, and it just threw me off every single time.
Oh, yes, tolls.
Tolls was another one. If you got over the gas prices that were crazy, there were tolls everywhere throughout Europe. Now, you did have the option, and you could set in this in your navigation to not go on toll roads. That was fine, but typically, especially in Italy, if you didn't want to pay tolls, you were way out of the way, and it was talking on these curvy up and down mountain roads that were just insane. So we really wanted to be on the toll roads. The toll roads were fabulous. They were really smooth, really easy. You can go really fast, but there were a lot of tolls, and the total.
And what we found with the toll roads was it often would save us about half the time. So there were certainly scenarios where we weren't really interested in driving along the coast, and there were places that we just weren't interested in checking out for house hunting. So we plugged in the tolls and off we went. So the total amount we paid for tolls was $302.
Now, yeah, and just a little bit more about tolls. So we didn't have a transponder. That could have been a choice, but particularly because we were going through 4 different countries, that would have been a lot of work to make sure that we had the right transponder for all of those different countries. So, but the tolls were super easy. So in most cases, you stop at the toll booth and it was contactless. So you just kind of take your phone and just kind of wave your phone in front and you just keep going. So paying the tolls, there were a lot of tolls. They were expensive, $300 in tolls, but it was super easy.
We don't have to worry about that dreaded letter that you get from the car rental company in the U.S. where you got tagged for your license plate and you're going to send the letter later that you have to pay the full.
Fee.
None of that happened. It was just pay with your credit card, boom, toll's done. Next day. Okay, so finally, after 5,000 miles, we got to Lisbon. We dropped the car off. It was just as easy to drop the car off as it was to pick it up. We prearranged a time to drop it off. We got there. The rep was right on the street. He said, come this way. We went into the parking lot. He did a walk around the car, made sure there was no damage. By the way, our deductible on any damage was $0. We didn't mention that before on the insurance. So it came with full comprehensive liability and comprehensive insurance with $0 deductible. So fortunately, we didn't have to make any claims because we had no damage to the car. He verified that. We handed the keys. We signed off some paperwork. He put us back in another car. He drove us back to the airport, and we grabbed transit down into Lisbon. And see you later, Frenchie. Done. That was the name of our car, was Frenchie. See you later, Frenchie. And we had nothing else that we had to worry about. And we were done with our road trip. Oh, the total amounts. Okay.
Total. Another drum roll.
We haven't yet told you the price of the lease. So the total lease amount was $1,938, which ends up being $41 a day for the car. The total price of all the totals for the car, the tolls, the gas, the parking was $3,375 or $71.81 a day. So we think $41 for a car rental, all inclusive, unlimited mileage. Any driver could drive it. Yeah. You only had to be 18, and you had to have a driver's license, and with full insurance was a deal.
With the price of rentals and the price, again, the problems that we solved, we didn't have. Well, the drop-off fee was minimal. But it was all included in the total. And the insurance, if we had to pay for insurance for an unlimited number of drivers, complete liability and collision coverage, we could have easily just paid that much just for insurance.
Right. So we absolutely would use Auto TT again. They were fantastic. They were so easy to work with. I had to communicate with him several times throughout the process as we were getting ready to go. By the way, you don't have to pay for the car until 15 days before you pick it up. So you just contact them 15 days ahead. You can give your credit card. You can use PayPal. It was so easy, and everything was in English. They spoke English. They wrote in English. All the instructions and the maps and things of where to drop the cars off were in English. And it was just an absolutely 5-star, incredible experience to use Auto TT. Would we do the road trip again? We disagree on this, don't we?
It was a long trip, 47 days.
47 days.
4 countries. And like I said, 5 countries. Oh, because we
got Monaco.
So we do, and
5 countries.
8,000 kilometers, 5,000 miles. I mean, that's like New York to LA and back almost. So it was a lot of driving.
I think if I wanted to get another car, I would definitely do the same company. I don't think I would do 5,000 miles again in Europe.
I disagree. I had a blast. I thought the road trip was so much fun, and it's actually two things that I learned about Chris is one is she doesn't necessarily like driving in the city in Europe, and she even more doesn't like when I drive. So it was there were some stressful times, but we figured it out, and it was a blast, and we got to see things that we would not have been able to see if we were just relying on trains and buses. It was a fabulous, really freeing experience to have the car.
Our goal was to get the list shorter of the places that we would want to live along the Portuguese or Spanish coast. Not only did it not get shorter, it got longer, and it included some places in France and Italy as well. So we failed on that part, but we definitely have places we absolutely want to go back to that we'll stay longer and do some slow travel through those places. And that we'll do definitely all over again.
For sure.
Right. So next week, we're talking about the Camino. Totally different speed. We're going from 70 miles an hour to 3 miles an hour. Totally different speed. We're going to tell you everything that's happened while we've been walking the Camino with some friends and share you all the logistics of how we did that. He's a logistic expert. You're going to be really impressed with what he did. So subscribe and like us, and we'll talk to you next week.